Hi, it's Michael Vensky, the creator, producer, host of Your Funeral Music. Real quick before we get to this week's episode. Pop quiz. Did you know that there are two versions of Your Funeral Music? Well, it's true. There are. There's the weekly 56-minute radio program featuring the guest of the week and their music, but with much less talking. That airs on Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. on 94.1 FM, Frogtown Community Radio, right in St. Paul, Minnesota, and streaming worldwide at WFNU.org. And then there's this version of the program, which is distributed on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube podcast, which features extended conversations with our guests of the week answering big questions about life and beyond, but without any of their music. So, why are there two versions of the show? Because the mission of Your Funeral Music has three parts. First, to capture the voice, the legacy, the story, the music, the wishes of each guest. And second, to provide each guest's family and friends this keepsake audio full of memories and comfort and wisdom and laughs and thoughtful, helpful direction during times of sadness and grief. And three, to inspire you, dear listener, to contemplate your one wild and precious life, that mortality, and to start a conversation with your loved ones about final wishes. This program, it is a labor of love created to ensure that your person's voice is available when you need to hear it. What you don't need to hear are ads. You're not here for that? That's not what this space is for or about. This program is free, but does cost to produce. If you love what the show's about, support our mission with a donation at yourfuneralmusic.com. Think it over, and while you do, please also know that Your Funeral Music would not be possible without the support, encouragement, and inspiration of St. Paul's Frogtown Community Radio. Their mission to amplify the diverse voices in the community in a positive, healing, safe, and empowering space where all the community voices are heard is the foundation for this program. If you believe in that same mission with Frogtown Community Radio, consider giving them a tax-deductible donation at wfnu.org/donate. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Your Funeral Music. Each week, we welcome a new guest to share the songs they want played at their funeral to help us, the living, contemplate our own mortality. Have you ever thought about the music you want played at your funeral? Be honest, you have a song. If you have funeral jams, consider sharing those tunes with our community. Visit us online at yourfuneralmusic.com to learn our mission, listen to past episodes, hear the complete guest funeral jams playlist, and share your jams at yourfuneralmusic.com. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Michael Vensky. Our guest this week is Emily Carlson. Emily is a Twin Cities interior painter, designer, and owner of Righteous Digs. When she's not on a job site, Emily is giving death stares to guys at the gym while she weightlifts, raging to nu metal. In her free time, she fights the patriarchy through advocating for women and queer people in the construction industry and rejecting dates from Midwestern guys who wear Crocs and watch sports. This is Your Funeral Music, Emily C.
Thank you for having me.
What inspired you to share your tunes tonight?
I'm on this journey of finding who I am, and this was just another way for me to really dig deep and see what's important to me, what's the messages I want to convey to my community, and like what what's my legacy?
Was it difficult coming up with these songs, or was it pretty quick?
Like, it was really just like a fever dream where I was like, I gotta have these songs figured out. Like, I just really wanted to dive deep. And so I know that there's songs. If I spent a month getting this list done, my songs would be better or maybe like more something. But I think this is a list that's ever evolving, right? Like what I choose now versus what I would choose when I'm 80 years old would be very different. This is where I'm at right now. And I'm going to imagine like I'm dying right now and it's my funeral right now. And that still tells a big story about who I am to this point.
Do any of the songs that we're going to hear tonight speak to the story of your life?
And that's how I feel about Let My Love Open the Door. I've really struggled with love. In the beginning of the song, when it talks about when people keep repeating that you'll never fall in love, when everybody keeps retreating, but you can't seem to get enough. That is my fucking life experience. Like I keep trying to love or be loved and it doesn't work. And not just romantically, it's just challenging with anyone you meet, friendships or family members. I mean, my family's here, but I've been like a black sheep my whole life. I've never been in a group of people I was never in sports. I was the goth kid that wrote poetry. Like I could never find my people, and it's only now. It's because I didn't know who I was. So if I didn't know myself, I couldn't attract the people that actually aligned with me. And so now I'm 38 and I've gone through some Al-Anon and found myself a bit more. And now I'm starting to attract my tribe. And for the first time in my life, I have found women particularly that feel like true, supportive, authentic connections in my life. But I mostly feel like an alien everywhere else.
Are these songs only for celebration of life, or do you envision hearing them as you're passing or you're entering the afterlife?
Yeah, I think some of them, like Let Go was one that I thought that's really for me in my transition. I want to reference my notes. What did I write here? We've no time for later now. You can't await your own arrival. Leave your things behind because it's all going off without you. Were two of the lyrics that really stuck out to me. So that song is really me looking into the void and accepting the free fall into the afterlife is what I wrote down. I'm like, that's really poetic and perfect.
So then for the songs that come after that, are those in the afterlife?
Ooh, I like that idea because the next song is A by Machine Gun Kelly. And that song, like, I will be in my car, like, just like shoulder shrugging, like having a ball. And same with Miley. That's a great idea. I love that idea. I'm going to say yes to that.
Do you envision a funeral ceremony then? So the first song of the playlist, is that how the ceremony or service begins? Or where does it appear?
That's so interesting because all of these songs produced like a lot of visuals for me in my mind. And I haven't really thought about my funeral and what that would look like. And I don't really want to be like in a casket, but I love the imagery of that. So throughout the songs, I did have this imagery of like the classic, I'm in a casket, and there's like this really like dark theatrical aspect to my funeral. But in my family, we don't really do that. Like I'm not religious. My family, we tend to do more celebrations of life. And so there is always an after party where we go back to someone's house. Everybody gets drunk. We take a shot of akavit, like, because I'm of Swedish descent. And we talk about philosophy and space and like everything you're not supposed to talk about is what we talk about. And we yell and fight, but it's really interesting. And we have a great time and we're up till 2 a.m. At the end of a funeral. On my dad's side of the family, like that's the goal. Like we want to be like furiously like fist shaking. Like that's how we have a good time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My cousin Nate, he passed away, I don't know how long ago, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago. And every time we went to parties at his house, we would just pass around the bottle of akavit, and it's like, God, this is terrible. But
Nate was a fan?
Nate loved it.
Oh.
He made us all, it was a thing in our family. And so now, my aunt has passed and we, take shots in her name. My dad has passed. We take shots in his name, and it just continues.
Up to this point, has this experience shaped or changed you in any way?
Oh, that's tough. I'm going to say no. I think it's just offered me an outlet for things that I've thought about to be expressed, which I'm grateful for.
Tell me, how did you decide to open your show and close your show with these two numbers?
What's interesting is I didn't adjust the order of my playlist in any way. This is just how the songs came to me in order. And then I had more songs, and as I edited down, this was the order that they were in. And I was giving it thought like, oh, is this right? Like my songs are so different from each other, a lot of them. And I just thought, no, this is the way it was supposed to be. And so Gloria feels like, I wrote a note that it feels like a song of my bibliography. Like it just feels like a song of who I am. So I thought starting with that would give the audience or like my family, whoever's listening, an understanding of who I am as we go into this conversation. And then some of the songs get sad or like kind of morose, or I have sort of a sick sense of humor about things. So I thought ending with Miley Cyrus, We Can't Stop. Like that's like the end of the party. That's for my girls at, the end of the funeral, the party after, like toasting me off was how I was visualizing that. One note I have, just as you bring up this question, I think more than thinking about the songs, I was so jazzed to think about my funeral. Like I thoroughly enjoyed visualizing it. And I have sort of I've always had a fascination with death and the darkness. And this was just a place where I could finally express it.
Paint this picture.
I am a drama queen. So when I visualize it, it's like the most amazing Gothic church. Everything is dramatic and dark and kind of Gothic. Like think of like maroons and like skeleton imagery and black roses.
Do you have an age that you either want to live to, or you have an age that you don't want to live beyond. Do you see yourself as an older person at the end of your life, or do you see yourself as it could be tomorrow?
I don't see myself as an older person. And I have people aging around me that have gotten to a point where I'm like, I definitely do not want to get to that point. And the idea of having the option to choose when you're done being here, like my dad died at 64. That feels too young. I wish I still had him, but like 80 feels like a scary age for me. Like you can be pretty rockin' and be in good health, and then it just seems like 80 is when things really start to go downhill as far as mobility and social life and memory.
The next jam on Emily's funeral music playlist comes from Canadian rock band The Dirty Nil and closes their 2023 album Free Rein to Passions. The song we're talking about is The Light, the Void, and Everything. And if you haven't seen the Blue Velvet-inspired music video, you're going to want to check that out and watch till the end. This high-energy, anthemic track captures existential musings wrapped in distorted guitars, and the lyrics explore uncertainty of life, self-destruction, and the hope of finding meaning amid chaos. Emily, now that sounds a lot like life, just right there. Did you meet this group first, or did you meet this song first? How did they come into your life?
First of all, this is my favorite band of all time, and I just saw them last night live, which is why I'm tired today. I heard them on The Current maybe 5 years ago. They played a song, and they were in town that night, and I was like, I love this band. But I didn't know them well enough. I wasn't going to concerts very much at the time. And so I just started listening to them, and I was like, man, the next time they're in town, I have to see them. And I've gone to every show they've been here since then. And I even traveled to New York 2 years ago to see them there. And I waited outside the club, and I actually got to I ran into the bass player packing up the van, and I was like, Sam, if I wait here long enough, can I get a picture with the three of you? And they talked to me, and I got a picture. It's on my fridge right now, and I'm obsessed with them.
Do you have a favorite lyric from the song at all? They're your favorite band, Emily. Do you have a favorite lyric in the tune?
Yeah, when they say, "What does life mean? Shut up, baby. Nothing at all." I love. They are so rock and roll. They are just rock and roll to me, and they use a lot of language that is familiar to me from Al-Anon and recovery, and they don't sexualize women in their lyrics. They're very philosophical in a lot of their lyrics. They also have their fun, but they're not demeaning people. They're just having a good time and talking about life.
It's funny that you bring up that lyric, actually, because it stood out to me, that common refrain, "Shut up, baby." Mm-hmm. When was the last time that you told someone to shut up, baby? Was it an actual baby?
Ooh, I couldn't say.
This tune, then, you want this played at your celebration of life?
I want them to play Dirty Nil, Luke, Sam, Kyle. Please,
the group.
Please just play at my funeral. Oh, and the other lyric, try not to be ungrateful for the gift of suffering. Oh my gosh. I have to tell myself that every day.
When you look back on your life, has there been a period of time where you felt like you were experiencing suffering, you were suffering, and then on the heels of that, maybe not immediately, but down the road, you look back with fonder eyes?
Yes, I am very familiar with suffering, as most human beings are, and I can see it now as a teacher. It's learn suffering. Yes, I have gratitude for it because you learn how to be more of a human being and show up in the world in the way that you want to after experiencing it. But it's not fun.
Welcome back. This is Your Funeral Music. This week, our guest, Emily Carlson, is here to share a new playlist of funeral jams and help us contemplate what it means to be alive by thinking about not being alive. You can learn more at yourfuneralmusic.com. Our next song, Worms, comes from the 2018 debut album Street Worms by Swedish punk band Viagra Boys. Worms is a satirical post-punk track with absurdist lyrics that critique modern nihilism and societal decay. The song's humor and deadpan delivery reflect a world where absurdity and reality blur. Now, what is it about this song that found its way to your playlist, Emily?
I am I wanted to say I'm a sick motherfucker. My sense of humor, it's the visual. I can just visualize all my loved ones in slow motion, like wearing all black and red lipstick, carrying my casket on a cloudy day through the cemetery while this song plays. I just love that imagery.
Casket, then. No cremation, no cremation urn.
Well, no, I actually want to be cremated, but it's the visuals of my funeral that are all with a casket.
Have you ever thought of doing like a living wake, and you could be present and watch all these things happen? So
do people do that?
Oh yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
maybe I should do that.
It can be really healing for the folks in your life who want to come out and see you and get to say the things they want to say, and maybe do so at a time before great sadness. Like, let's come together so I can tell you how wonderful you are, and you get to hear it, and I can make you cry rather than me crying. Kind of one of those things.
That sounds like something I will do.
So, but I
haven't thought about it.
You see yourself, you're hoisted up there, you're in the casket, and your family's carrying you through the cemetery while this song plays.
Yeah.
Worms. This is a new song to me. I didn't know it before, but one of the lyrics is, "The same worms that eat me will someday eat you too."
That's the best lyric.
Oh. How do you interpret this?
I love that this song will remind everyone of their own mortality at my funeral. And it comments on our shared humanity. And I think that as being a young person that's experienced loss, because I was 31 when I lost my dad, and no one I knew, none of my peers could relate to what I was going through at the time. And so part of accepting death when it's not something you've been faced with is it brings your own mortality to your attention, and it's terrifying. Like it was obviously horrible to lose my father, but what was more horrible was realizing this was going to continue to happen for the rest of my life, and I was going to have to deal with it. So having that commentary at my own funeral to just be like, hey, everybody, like, you're next. Just feels like something I would do. If you know me, that like my friends will all be like, yeah, she would do that. I think it is about acceptance of mortality. Yeah.
How did it make you feel? Did you feel uh, amused or joyful
Yes.
or?
Mischievous. Like like, that's the other thing. I also could envision at this very somber, serious funeral, all my friends and family sitting there, and then out of nowhere, this song starts to play, and they're just crying. But then these lyrics come up, and it makes me laugh. I just, I love the idea of fucking with people when they're sad.
Our next song has been covered hundreds of times by just as many artists. Originally, the song was composed. Our next song was composed by Henry Mancini with lyrics by Johnny Mercer. It's Moon River, and it was first performed by Audrey Hepburn in 1961's film Breakfast at Tiffany's, winning an Academy Award for Best Original Song. And in 1962, the song won also a Grammy Award for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Fast forward to 1999, and Mancini's recording, it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, which brings us to Frank Ocean's 2018 ethereal cover of Moon River. The song is reinvented and layered with harmonies and atmospheric production. Frank's version, it captures a sense of longing and nostalgia, making it feel deeply personal and almost dreamlike. Emily, thank you so much for being here. Will you help us understand this song? When did you discover the song? How is it that it made its way to your playlist tonight?
So I've lived many different lives. I've had a lot of different phases. And I went through this phase of wanting to be like a 1950s housewife. And I grew up watching.
Is it because of the pills? Is it the pills?
Honestly,
the uppers?
they just look so beautiful. I just liked that. I liked the aesthetic. Very different from what I want now. But in my youth, my mom loved old movies. So I grew up watching Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby and listening to Nat King Cole and all of the standards. So a standard had to be in my collection of funeral songs. And I also think this is one of the most beautiful love songs ever written. And when I was considering which one I would play at my funeral, I love the original, but when I listen to Frank Ocean's version, it really does have that ethereal sound, and it takes you to another world, which I think is at this point in my playlist, and with the theme of the playlist, we're on a journey of like going through life and on the way to the afterlife. So this song speaks to that journey that we all take to find love and to fill our dreams.
What do you think happens after the body expires? What happens after our time here?
I am new on my spiritual journey. So for most of my life, I believed we were just dead. We were just gone. But since my dad passed, he passed 7 years ago, and I have he's connected to me in different unexplainable ways that I can't deny that was him at the time. I just know it. And through my time at Al-Anon, like, you have to find a higher power. And so my higher power is the creator of the universe. I'm not really comfortable with the term God. I'm getting more comfortable with the idea of a goddess. And what was the question again?
What do you
What
imagine
happens?
happens after the body expires?
Okay, so I'm kind of starting to figure out like that I'm finding my spiritual being, my higher self, and that there is something outside of me, above me, an energy, but I don't know what happens with it yet. Hopefully I get to embody it. That would be incredible. Full time instead of just accessing her when I meditate.
Welcome back to Your Funeral Music. Each week we slow down to contemplate our mortality with a new guest, listening to the songs they want played at their funeral and the meaning behind the music. Our guest this week is Emily C., and I am your host, Michael Vensky. You can visit us online at yourfuneralmusic.com to learn our mission, listen to past episodes, hear the complete guest funeral jams playlist, and share your jams to be a guest at yourfuneralmusic.com. Of the songs we're going to listen to tonight, are there any that make you emotional?
Atom Bomb by Bully for sure is going to make me cry every time. And I was actually being really critical of myself with this list. I'm like, a lot of these songs are so modern, like songs that are within the last few years. And I love a lot of old music too. But this was just what was speaking to me. Every time she sings the line, "A shade of blue can make me cry," I literally cry. Because I'm an empath, and she so clearly is an empath. And this song speaks to my struggle living as an empath and having to witness the suffering of everyone around me, as well as my own suffering. So,
How do you get through living as an empath without having other people drag you down? What advice do you have to the people out there who lead with their heart?
oh God, I've
Help us.
been really isolating. So, because I have to, I'm recognizing how sensitive I am to the energies of others. And one thing that really helped me is I spent some time in Al-Anon. Someone in my life who I love and was really important to me suffered from addiction, and many people in my family's lineage have suffered from addiction, and everyone in the family is either an addict or like a severe codependent, and I fall on the severe codependent. Like, I just want to save everybody, and I don't, like in the song it's like thinking of someone I love being lonely at night, like all of these things. I'm just like, I don't want that for anyone, but it's also how I'm feeling. Like, I'm alone. I'm alienated, and I'm also realizing, as much as I am feeling responsible for the well-being of those around me, I completely abandoned my own well-being in sacrifice for them, and they didn't even ask for it. So it's a dance. I'm trying to figure out how to love and be loved. It's easy to give for me and not receive, because I'm used to not receiving. I was in a relationship that was really challenging, and I couldn't find myself. And then all of a sudden I found Bully, and she had these words in her songs that resonated with me so much about who the hell am I, and what am I doing here, and how do I fit in this place. And I think Atom Bomb really encompasses that whole question really well, especially as someone living as an empath. which she clearly is from this song, and I very much am.
Do you believe in the soul?
I do.
I ask because one of the lyrics in Atom Bomb is, "I'm ashamed. I lose myself in people like I lost myself in you." And if the soul exists, could that lyric be interpreted as the soul being lost inside the physical body? Like the soul is writing about being in that person's body? I lost myself in you. It kind of, that lyric kind of speaks to what you were saying about being in a relationship and kind of losing yourself or not being able to find yourself in that relationship. Is that right? Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about resenting being brought here. And I think it's because it's so hard to look around and say, wow, what a great place. Let's bring more souls to experience this fresh hell. And I think it's easy to lose yourself when it's so uncomfortable. You just want to focus on everyone else. That's how I've dealt with it in my past, is instead of looking at my life and what I should be doing to become more myself, I just point at everyone else and say, why aren't you doing this? Or you should do this. And I'm on that journey with Alicia, it sounds like, to let go of that illusion of control and let people be and let me be me. And that's where I find the most peace and solace, is when I allow people to be themselves and me to be me.
When you talk about being yourself, you had shared a little earlier about a nickname that's been resonating with you, a nickname that resonates with you that you're hoping that other people may start to use.
I recently got something, like in the last few years, got something monogrammed, and my initials spell out EAC, Eck. And I just thought, visually,
Ew, what Eck?
I'm like, that looks stupid. So I just rearranged my middle name with my first name, and now I have Ace. And I'm like, that's cool. And also, I was struggling with self-worth. I was struggling with that whole codependency, like putting people first thing. And I was like, well, that's number one. I'm number one in my life. And Ace it just rolls off the tongue. And I also recently had met someone who introduced himself as Rocky. And I was like, who are your parents? And I had the opportunity to meet his parents. I found out his name is just Eric. And he just one day was like, I want everyone to call me Rocky. And I just thought, that's hilarious. But it really suits him. And it's like, why not? And I was sharing with you before the show that I've been spending a lot of time with the queer community and over the last year with my advocacy work. And the model that they represent about love and self-acceptance has just been so beautiful to witness, because it's like, yeah, if we are portraying something that doesn't feel like us, we have the power to change it. And whether it's changing your clothes, asking people to call you by a different name, or showing up differently in situations from how we would in the past, it's all ways to become more ourselves. And so my friends have started to call me Ace, and I actually I got a tattoo of the Ace of Spades on fire. And to my punk roots, not that Motorhead is punk, but Motorhead was like a quintessential song of my youth. That was like the first time I freaked out to music and was like, what is this sound? And I need more rock and roll in my life. So it has just so many meanings, Ace.
Who introduced you to Motorhead?
Oh gosh, I think it was on a soundtrack to some movie. So it's not even something I normally would have seeked out or been exposed to, because my, like, as we were raised to not, me and my sister were like goth punk babies, and my mom was just absolutely horrified when we'd be listening to like Marilyn Manson and stuff. So, that kind of music was not happening in our household. It was more like James Taylor and Phil Collins and stuff like that, which is also great music. It's all about the mood, and I think that's what we were talking about, how some of my songs, it's like the next song is like, where did that come from? And it really does come from my childhood. I mean, listening to American standards, to jazz and rock and roll and 80s metal, and then the 90s stuff to now. I just love it all. It all has a place in a season and in a mood to support me when I need it.
Welcome back to Your Funeral Music, where we're listening to the jams you won't get to hear. Our guest of the week is Emily, or Ace, and I'm your host, Michael Vensky. Thank you for joining us. Our next song, it's a cover of Have a Little Faith in Me, originally written in 1987 by John Hyatt following his sobriety from drugs and alcohol, which had contributed to his marriage breakdown and being released by former record labels. Yikes.
Wow. It's so interesting how much addiction finds its way into my life. I didn't know that history of the song. But addiction, loving someone with addiction, or being addicted to trying to save people like I am, they're both the same spiritual affliction, but just different symptoms. Is probably why I chose this song. This Joe Cocker is kind of the oddball on my list, I would say. But this is a nod to my childhood. We listened to Joe Cocker. It really reminds me of my dad. And just his voice is iconic to my life. I chose this song hoping that it will be a reminder to my loved ones to reach out to my memory when they're having a hard time. Because I pulled out a lyric that I really liked. When the road gets dark and you can no longer see, let my love throw a spark. And I hope people do that while I'm still alive, by reaching out or spending time with me and calling me. But when I'm not here anymore, they can think of a memory, or they can talk to me out loud like I do with my lost loved ones, and just get some comfort from it. I think I'm asking people in my life now to have a little faith in me. I feel like a lot of people have given up on me being able to make good choices for my life, or change in ways that would be beneficial to me and those around me. And I'm on it. I'm growing, and people do change. I think the message that no one ever changes is not true. It's just you have to want it. And I've hit that dark night of the soul, as they like to call it. And when it's so uncomfortable to stay the same, it's easier to change. Now I have to do the hard work of showing people in my life that I've disappointed or hurt that there's redemption is possible. It's hard to sit with people in their struggle. And I'm so grateful for those that have sat with me in mine, and I'm trying to have the capacity return the favor.
Welcome back to the program, and surprise, pop quiz. Name this next group. Okay, now here's your hint. This next musical group is described as extremely dangerous to ships and isolated structures. What is this group's name? Extremely dangerous to ships and isolated structures. Now, Emily, you know the group. You picked these songs. If you hadn't, would you know the answer to this question?
No.
If you guessed Rogue Wave,
Yes.
you are correct. That's right. American indie rock band Rogue Wave is our next group with this cover of Pete Townshend's 1980 hit Let My Love Open the Door.
This was one that was just instantly like, yep, this has got to be in there. When tragedy befalls you, don't let it drag you down. Love can cure your problems. I love that line, and I think that's a great message to have for people at your funeral. I want to back up to the beginning of the song. The beginning lyrics are, when people keep repeating that you'll never fall in love, when everybody keeps retreating, but you can't seem to get enough. That is my life experience as well. It is so hard to love people and be loved. I think there's just this whole conversation. I'm a 38-year-old single woman, and there's this conversation that, like, my best years are behind me. And it's not that people are actually saying this to me. This is just society has said this to me, and it's hard not to internalize it. So when society keeps telling me, like, I have no value as a 38-year-old woman who's not going to reproduce, and I'm dating and it's not working out, but I can't get enough. I guess this is just speaking to my romantic woes, which feels like a really big part of my life, that I wanted to include. But it also speaks back to that codependency piece, because actually I hate those lyrics that you just read, because it's saying that is the most codependent lyric I've ever heard. Like, only my love can open your door. And it's like, that's just not true. Like, love as a capital L love is what opens all doors. And so that's the message that I'm sending, not that my love opens doors. I like turning it on its head like that, because that's the journey I'm on, is loving myself. Because I think the old trope that you're nobody till somebody loves you, that's not true. You're nobody till you love yourself, or nobody can love you until you love yourself, is what it should be. But that's not even true, because you're lovable innately as a living being. That's the message we should say.
Welcome back to Your Funeral Music, where we're listening to the jams you won't get to hear. Our guest this week is Emily C., and I'm your host, Michael Vensky. Our next song is an original from 2002 and opens the only album ever produced by the band, Frou Frou. Frou Frou? Frou Frou?
I thought it was Frau Frau, but I'm no expert.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I'm glad I asked.
Frou Frou. Like, I don't listen to this band ever. It's just this one song that I love.
This group, Frou Frou, is, and I think it's Frou Frou, was an English electronic duo composed of musician Imogen Heap and producer songwriter Guy Sigsworth. They wound up splitting up in 2004, so they only produced this one album. Emily, are you letting go, or are we letting go? Who is letting go? Tell us about this song and you.
Well, I first heard this from watching Garden State, and I can't even remember the movie, but I've listened to this soundtrack over and over and over again. It is a great soundtrack. I think this is a song for me about embracing mortality and the beauty in the breakdown. Even like, this is a tie back to Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly uses clips from this song in his new album, and I'm like, oh, that beauty in the breakdown just really holds up for me.
There's beauty in the breakdown. You're not talking about beauty in the breakdown of the beat, like, let's break it down. Not like that. Beauty in the breakdown of, like, there's beauty in the breakdown of...
Decomposing.
Oh, decomposition. I see. There's beauty in all these maggots crawling. Okay. Beauty in the breakdown. So just like beauty in the end of things, beauty at the end of...
Yeah. This is a song about loss to me. And if I listen to this during a breakup or a mental breakdown, there is beauty in it. I kind of romanticize sadness in my life. When it's rainy and dark and I don't want to move and I put on some sad music. Yeah, the concept of burning down a forest so that it can grow lusher and fuller. It's some imagery I get with this song.
Do you have a favorite song on your list? Like, I just love this jam. It's here because I just love it.
I mean, probably A by Machine Gun Kelly. It's just like a pure joy song for me. Machine Gun Kelly was actually in my Spotify Wrapped. I'm in his top like 0.5% listeners. I'm a super fan according to Spotify.
If you could share anything with him about his music and what it means to you, what would you share?
What I identify with so much is the themes of loss, unworthiness, and chaos. And I think throughout our existence in our society, we're taught to look away from those things. And so I'm grateful to Machine Gun Kelly for having the courage to be like, this is the darkness I'm seeing. Everyone's telling me I'm crazy, but it's going on. So I think I feel like I'm a truth teller, and I see him as a truth teller, and it's dark and it's sad at times, but that's life. We got to look at the darkness to be able to find the light.
Are there lyrics that stick out to you that feel particularly joyful?
It's the beginning of the song. Can you read it?
I don't ever want to fall when I'm this high. I wrote a letter to myself in the form of a song. I can play when the sun shines. I know better than to trust anything that I say to myself when I'm this high. A.
So it's that first line about I wrote a letter to myself to sing when the sun shines. I love Machine Gun Kelly because I relate to his tortured experience so much. We have very different experiences, but we both clearly had like challenging childhoods. His father passed away, and so he has a lot of songs talking about losing his father, which I relate to a lot. And this is one of those songs that I chose this song for the playlist, but other songs of his I relate to more. He has a song called Born with Horns, and a lyric I chose from that song is I'd rather be a freak than somebody's puppet. And then in his song God Save Me, the first line is God save me, I'm fucked up. And then he goes on and has lyrics about being a lost boy, which I actually have a Machine Gun Kelly tattoo. I just got the words lost boy tattooed to me this year because I went on a road trip to North Dakota to see Machine Gun Kelly by myself this summer. I was alone. I was having this journey and just listening to his music the whole way there. And when he was singing about being a lost boy, I'm like, I'm a lost boy. Like, I don't ever want to grow up. I don't know where I belong. I feel like a freak. I like all of these sentiments, like I relate to so strongly. So even though like I'm sure he's an absolutely horrible person, I guess that is part of why I still love him despite like what you might the public persona that he plays. Like I can still see like he's just a hurting human being and creating art that resonates with so many people and gives them a space to he gives me permission to be that 14-year-old boy I have inside of me that wants to punch everything, or that kid that just wants to fuck around and go on road trips by herself, screaming lyrics to music on the road and getting tattoos. I am a square punk. Like I don't do drugs, I don't drink. I go to bed at like 9:30 every night. So I don't resonate with a lot of like the drug addiction, like smoking cigarettes, like that whole lifestyle. But when I listen to this song, I feel high and like I'm just feeling good. Like things are all right. I'm having a good time, and I don't want to come down from that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And at this point in the evening, so we're down to our last two songs. How did you decide to have this be more toward the end of the night?
Oh, yeah. I did put a lot of the heavy stuff in the beginning, and I think I was self-conscious of that as I was making this playlist. Like, is that what I'm trying to say? Like, is there some other facets of my personality that need to be brought out? And I thought, yeah, Machine Gun Kelly needs to be on there, but it also coincides with how my family celebrates life. And we have the sad ceremony, and then there's an after party. And this is the after party of my playlist.
So this is like we're cranking it up.
Yeah, we're twerking.
We did the
like,
let go. We've let go.
Yeah, we're letting go.
We have transitioned into party town.
Yeah.
Afterlife USA.
I'm in the clouds.
Okay, you're
at
in the
this
clouds.
point.
Gotcha. Right on. All right, you ready to give this a listen?
I'm ready.
Is there anything else we gotta?
Well, okay. I also have to. This is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me, so please don't judge me too harshly for liking Machine Gun Kelly. Audience in general, I have like an angsty teenage boy inside of me that needs to be expressed. So that's what this is that part of me.
You don't introduce yourself this way on dates, do you?
Maybe that's the problem.
I got this teenager inside of me. He's real angsty.
He might want to fight you at some point.
Yikes.
He's going to get a dumb tattoo.
Oh, boys.
He's going to pick up skateboarding at age 30 thinking it's a good idea.
Don't grow up.
No.
Lost boy.
Lost boy.
Welcome back to Your Funeral Music. Our guest of the week is Emily, but you can call her Ace. We're closing our time together with We Can't Stop, Miley Cyrus's 2013 hit about a house party and recreational drug use. Or is it? To help us understand, our guest of the week, Emily Carlson, is here to explain all of these tracks and more. Emily, we're closing with We Can't Stop. That feels kind of ironic, wouldn't you say, to be closing the night with a song about not closing the night? How did this song get here?
Yeah. Miley has to be on my list. We were talking about zodiac signs. She is also a Sagittarius woman. And even though she's younger than me, I look up to her because she is someone who I think is herself and is a model for women to be authentically yourself. What's funny though is in preparation for this conversation, I read the lyrics to be like, okay, what do I really want to highlight about this song? And I've been singing the wrong lyrics for 11 years, but I'm keeping mine.
Is the lyric about Molly and not Miley?
No.
Oh. Is it about the line in the bathroom?
No.
What is it? Tell us.
Can't you see it's we who own the night? Can't you see it's we who bout that life? I thought it was brought the light. And I'm bringing the light. So I'm bringing the light. And I guess that's why it's ending here. It's like if I'm passing, I'm going on to this like new consciousness or place, like it's going to be bright. That's and I'm bringing it. That's my hope. Last year, I created a holiday called the Emmissance.
The what?
The Emmissance.
The Emmissance.
Which is the Renaissance of Emily.
What kind of festivities occurred during Emmissance?
I had a cake made and I had like just a beautiful spread. I invited a bunch of women to dress like goddesses and come to my house and celebrate my liberation. As I mentioned before, I was in a difficult relationship and I've been healing from that for the last couple of years. And I'm finally finding myself. And so I decided, I've never been married. I'm not having a wedding. I'm not having baby showers. When are we celebrating ourselves and the hard things we do? And I'm really proud of myself, and my friends are really proud of me for what I've done in the last few years. And so I thought, I'm having a party, and why not?
Emmissance.
Anyone can take their name and put essence at the end and do it.
Michael Sance. We can't stop. We can't stop. So we start with an icon like Patti Smith, who more or less you could say kind of paved the way and brought us to our closer, Miley. Seeing those two juxtaposed, tops and tails, what kind of message do you hope the people in the community are going to take from hearing Patti Smith and Miley on your list?
I was also self-conscious that I had so many men on my list from the beginning. And I was like, I got to get the ladies in. So maybe the book ending of it was a way for me to amplify the female voices and get some men mixed in the middle. Because, yeah, they're the ones that brought the light.
At the end of, or after, I guess, after your life, after you pass, how do you want to be remembered? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. So I have a project. So we haven't really talked about what I do for a living. I'm a contractor. I paint houses for a living, and I'm a woman in an extremely male dominated field. And this last year, I started a collective for women and queer people in the trades. And I've made, I want to be the Gloria Steinem of the construction industry, which is super audacious. But I've had women modeled to me that have been my clients. I help a lot of 60-plus-year-old women in their homes because they don't have husbands or children that can take care of it for them. And I've been so inspired by their generosity to me and their community. My first client, Ann Manning, she is the reason I have a business. I've been in business for 10 years, and she gave me work. I mean, she would hire me to polish her silver if she had nothing else for me, just because she wanted to make sure I had food on the table. And she told everyone she knew about me, even though she didn't know me. Like, I'm just this girl painting houses. And she passed away like 2 years ago. She didn't have children. She wasn't married. And I watched how so many people were at her bedside as she passed. They had to tell people not to come. So many people loved Anne. And then I went to one of many services for her passing, and to just see like how many people loved her and she impacted them. Like, I thought I was special to Anne, but she made everyone feel that way in her life, no matter like how much she was connected to them. So I always have her in mind because I'm not married. I don't want to have children. I would like to have a partner one day, but I'm not going to have a legacy in the same way that other people do, other women do. I'm not going to have children. So if I can have a community that big that love me without being forced to by being my offspring, like, what does that say about how great of a person you are, you know? That's the impact I want to have. I want to help people.
And just like that, we've reached the end of our program. Any parting words you hope to share with folks at the end of our time together?
Being able to have these conversations, it allows us to know each other more. Like, if I could have this playlist for everyone I know and know the reasons why, like, that's such an insight. That's such a gift. Because I think we go around the world making a lot of assumptions and not really getting to know people and their intentions, regardless of what their actions convey. Because I don't know, there's probably plenty of people that wouldn't understand, maybe they just think I'm a selfish feminist that just doesn't care about the world because I'm not bringing new generations into it. I don't know. People can make a lot of assumptions, is my point. But by having the conversations, listening to the songs, you can know where I'm coming from more. I just want people to have a smile on their face when they think about me. And I think that I already see that I have that impact on people in my life. And so just keeping that going.
Has anything come up for you, or has anything in this process shaped or changed you now at the end?
I was surprised when we were talking about the Joe Cocker song, what came up for me. Have a little faith in me. I wasn't realizing that I was so insecure about wanting people to have faith in me now. And so I'm going to look at that. And maybe also having faith in myself. I think that's why I got emotional. Like now that I'm thinking about it more, it's really hard when you have this story about yourself in your head that's been told to you by society or your family, and it's not you. So and having faith in yourself that you're not the accumulation of maladaptive coping mechanisms you've found yourself to display. There's something beneath that, and finding her is what I'm trying to do, and I hope that for everyone else.
It's been a journey, and I'm so glad that we made it together on this week's Your Funeral Music. Emily, I'm especially thankful, of course, to you for your time, the tunes, and the tales that you shared with us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to just have these conversations in a thoughtful, safe place, and hopefully it'll be received that way.
Would you recommend other folks put together a list and come do this?
I think everyone should do this. It's so cool. And I've been talking to people about it, and they're like, I want to do that. How did you get that opportunity? So, yeah, it's definitely, and it helps bring some insight to yourself, and it's something to share with people that you care about or people that you want to know you more.
To learn more about Emily's painting and design work, check out righteousdigs.com. And if you or someone you know has funeral jams, consider sharing them with our community. Visit us online at yourfuneralmusic.com to learn our mission, listen to past episodes, hear the complete guest funeral jams playlist, and yes, share those jams at yourfuneralmusic.com. Please join us next week when we'll have a new guest and a new playlist reflecting on what it means to be alive and how we want to be remembered after we're gone.
This is going to be really sad if I died like next week.
Only for those who knew you.
True. You guys won't
nice
care.
Nice to meet you. And if you or someone you know has funeral jams, consider... The consider is full.